All right, we got the 260 spoilers, and let's just cut right to the chase. It seems like Gojo has returned. I know, that's wild. We've been speculating about it for a while, actually, since he died, of course. But I don't want to say anything is definitive, except that there is a person that shows up at the end of this chapter that looks like Gojo and is pretty much being referred to as him, or implied to be him, by the narrator at the end of the chapter. But also there's quite a few things that happened before that, so let's get into that, because we're finding out what Todo had on his hand. Because, you know, we saw Todo come back in the previous chapter and he had his hand wrapped up, but it turns out that Todo has replaced his left arm with an instrument called Vibraslap. And that Todo has changed Boogie Woogie's activation from a clapping hands to a collision of the metal piece and wooden box of the Vibraslap. And that Todo can now swap people a total of 50 times in a second. So this is unexpected. I didn't know it was going to be this. I mean, we were talking about it possibly being like a cursed tool or something, but I guess this classifies as a curse tool. I mean, we're also suspecting maybe there was some kind of reverse curse technique, or maybe there was a cadaver hand grafted onto him. No, it almost looks like a toy. But no, apparently it's been put on there, and somehow Todo has like altered his curse technique to be compliant with it. And the way that he does it is kind of like slamming this ball onto this thing that looks like a cowbell. Kind of like how you would like slam a buzzer or something. And doing that allows him to swap with Boogie Woogie, his curse technique, 50 times, which is wild. And Todo and Yuji's simultaneous attacks leave Sukuna clueless. So yeah, just think back to when Yuji and Todo were taking on Hanami, and then later on against Mahito, just taking that to the next level, because they're just like teleporting all over the place, wrecking Sukuna here with this crazy onslaught. And going further, Todo imposed a binding vow to limit the number of swaps in proportion to the collisions of Vibraslap. Todo has successfully expanded the curse technique target to multiple targets and expanded the effective range of the technique. So, that's pretty cool. Someone using binding vows other than Sukuna. And I guess this is what he had to do to expand the technique, which is fine. I mean, it's just like Sukuna's binding vows. They're not really that detrimental. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Factor. And also, if you're familiar with HelloFresh, which I've personally used and loved, they're in partnership with Factor. Warmer, sunnier days are calling. You can fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. And with 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from each week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. So I tried the Indian butter chicken with cilantro, lime, cauliflowered rice, and this was incredible. I haven't really had too much Indian food in my life, but I'm sure Factor did it justice, because this was so flavorful, and I wasn't the only one who thought so. I also tried the Tex-Mex beef bowl with green chili cheese sauce and cauliflowered rice. Factor always does their beef bowls right, and this was no different. I just wish there was more of this despite it being so filling. And I also had Factor's pineapple, turmeric, basil, cold pressed juice, which was incredible. I don't really think I've ever had a juice taste this fresh before. So guys, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code Zhoniin50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's Zhoniin50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. Thanks, guys. You know, limiting the number of swaps that can be performed in proportion with the collisions of the Vibraslap. So how many times he's like slamming on it like a buzzer. So he just can't exceed that number, which I guess is kind of implied anyway, right? I don't know. We'll have to go, of course, more into this once the chapter is released, or I could just get the full translation of the chapter, which hopefully I'll have out tomorrow morning. And we'll definitely go over all the Gojo stuff too. So subscribe for that if you haven't already, guys. I would really appreciate it. Trying to get to 300K, and then I'll shut up about it. Narrator also reveals that Todo successfully evacuated the sorcerers from Sukuna's domain. So we knew that he did that in the previous chapter, swapping the crows with the people that were inside of Sukuna's domain, which was like Maki and I think Ino, and there was somebody else in there. But the big question was like, how did Maki get out of there? And it probably has something to do with Miwa or something, because Maki has no cursed energy. So how would, his Boogie Woogie technique pick up on it? Not really sure. It's not explained by Gege unless it kind of went over his head and he didn't realize what he had done. But we'll talk more about it in the review. But anyway, Sukuna says out of all the sorcerers, he's the most self-centered and difficult to sway. He honestly appeared at the timing I least wanted him to show up, referring to Todo here. And just as Todo was about to land a kick, Sukuna easily dodges it. Todo makes a self-note that Sukuna can dodge midair. Yuji then throws a rock towards them, and Todo swaps it with Yuji as he lands a strong missile kick to Sukuna. Pretty great sequence here. Also, Gege just letting us know that, hey, I realize that Sukuna has been dodging in midair, and that's just because he can. How can he? I don't know. Maybe he made a binding vow with the air. Sukuna grabs hold of Yuji by his face and tries to thrash him, but Todo keeps on swapping as Yuji continues to punch Sukuna from his blind spots. Todo, Yuji, and Sukuna are now in like a roulette. Sukuna realizes Todo can change the maximum and minimum values for the number of swaps per single tap, and Sukuna thinks it's practically impossible to get used to Boogie Woogie. Wow, even Sukuna not thinking that he can adapt to this. I guess he'll have to pull out Maharaga again? Nah, he's not. I think he's done with the 10 shadows, but it would be pretty interesting to see how Maharaga would adapt to this. I guess he would just pick up on the amount of times that Todo is able to possibly do it, or he would just pick up on his tells. But Sukuna has figured out a way to read when Todo might swap. It's precisely when Yuji's focus has peaked. Sukuna thinks Todo might faint by not swapping Yuji, but something else to trick opponents. So Sukuna moves to punch Yuji very hard. But soon Meimei's crow appears, and Sukuna realizes his mistake that he misread Todo's move. Sukuna thinks that they swapped with Mei's crow so quickly he tries to turn his body towards his blind spot and land a kick, but he realizes he got tricked once again. Todo didn't swap their places at all. Yuji easily hits a black flash on Sukuna. Wow, big brain move by Todo here. So he says he concealed an attack with a concealment, with another concealment, and within a concealment. So pretty cool sequence again. We'll go over more of this in the full review, but Yuji landing another black flash here, and judging from what the narrator said a couple chapters back when Yuji landed like 7 or 8 in a chapter, there's going to be even more than this. But it seems like Sukuna is just taking this again, but it definitely is like hurting him, but it's not taking him out, because after landing a black flash, Yuji pierces his claw hand into Sukuna and continues to brutally tear him apart with a demonic face. Yeah, getting pretty brutal here. He's like grabbing at his chest, almost like pulling his heart out, which maybe could happen. Maybe it could parallel to Sukuna pulling out Yuji's heart, back in the first season. He doesn't do that, but it looks like it's about to happen. Even though Yuji's hand has pierced his chest, Sukuna tries to expand his domain once again, but Sukuna sees a mysterious silhouette. The narrator explains that Sukuna has witnessed him, the strongest ghost that Sukuna had killed by his own hands. So this is wild. So first of all, what's happening here is after like Yuji is digging into Sukuna's chest, He's looking off to the side and there's like smoke clearing. And there's a silhouette there, and in the final panel we see a person that looks like Gojo looking at Sukuna. And it's heavily implied to be Gojo because, you know, the narrator says the strongest ghost that Sukuna killed by his own hand. So, is this Gojo? Well, like I said, we're led to believe that it is. However, is it like literally Gojo? Is he actually there? Is it something else? Is it a swerve by Gege? Both options are definitely on the table. If it's not actually Gojo returning here and it's kind of just like a swerve, or it's like some kind of vision, or it's just not actually Gojo in some way and it's just kind of like, you know, whatever, then that's really mean by Gege, and I don't think people would really like that. But if it is Gojo and he returns, well then most of the fandom is probably really going to like that. But again, we'll go into way more of this stuff in the review, the full review that I'm going to be dropping tomorrow morning. We'll go over all the possibilities of Gojo possibly coming back here and all the possibilities of him not coming back. You know, we got to do the 50-50 as always. But if you liked the video, guys, please give it a like and let me know what you think about this in the comments. Is Gojo back? Do you think he has actually returned? Let me know. And please, again, subscribe, guys, if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.